Ask the Messengers, the program that deals with substance abuse, real people telling real stories. Where there is addiction, there is a chance for recovery. We're trying to help save lives on Ask the Messengers.
Sometimes you need to get knocked down before you can really figure out what your fight is and how you need to fight it. Sometimes you need to feel the pain and sting of defeat to activate the real passion and purpose that God predestined inside of you. God says in Jeremiah, I know the plans I have for you. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Hear me well on this day. This day when you have reached the hilltop and you are deciding on next jobs, next steps, careers, further education. You would rather find purpose than a job or a career. Purpose crosses disciplines. Purpose is an essential element of you. It is the reason you are on the planet at this particular time in history. Your very existence is wrapped up in the things you are here to fulfill. Whatever you choose for a career path, remember the struggles along the way are only meant to shape you for your purpose. When God has something for you, it doesn't matter who stands against it. If it's meant for you, God will move someone that's holding you back away from a door and put someone there who will open it for you. I don't know what your future is, but if you're willing to take the harder way, the more complicated one, the one with more failures at first than successes, the one that has ultimately proven to have more meaning, more victory, more glory, then you will not regret it. Press on with pride and press on with purpose and appreciate what God has brought you through.
Welcome to Ask the Messengers. I am your host, Tina Nelson, and on this week's episode, we bring you another author series with Kimberly Mallory. Today, Kimberly's guests are Dr. Valerie Simpson, author of Breathe, and Minister Belinda Pritchett, author of Fostering Pain in Silence. Ask the Messengers begins now.
Well, hello, Valerie Simpson. Welcome. And we have an amazing author today, you all. She has written a book called Breathe, a guide to coping mechanism and strategies. So, Valerie, just kind of tell us a little bit about just that title that says Breathe. Tell us a little bit about this book.
Yeah, the title, I had a different title for it, but the title made more sense after I was well into the writing. Titled Breathe as opposed to suffocating. If you've ever been pressed and pressured, it's a suffocating feeling at times. And literally, it can affect your breath. But psychologically, you can be so caught up until you're not in a breathing mode, which I will talk about the expressions of breathing when it comes to the title of the book or the series, Spiritual Pain Management, Breathe.
Okay, well, go ahead. Tell us just a little bit about your book. Sure. Tell us what exactly is this book?
Well,
what is it about?
All right, well, the book Breathe was written at the time of the first year of the pandemic. And we were at the holiday season. I was talking to some friends about the impact of grief. I'm a grief counselor, gerontologist, and a chaplain. And so I was talking to them about the effects of grief. And as we were talking, they said, you really need to stop the book you're writing. I was about 90% finished. Stop what you're doing, put this in a book and publish it as soon as possible. It's the holiday season. People are struggling. You really need to put that out there. So that is what pushed me into the mold to go ahead and produce this particular work.
Okay. So, I read a little bit about your book. In your book, you had one of your chapters, you said, she's not breathing. So were you talking about yourself, that you weren't breathing? just tell the audience a little bit of just about that chapter, She's Not Breathing.
So thank you for that question, because, it's really poignant to know that sometimes the whole factor of breathing, which is to find catharsis, to find comfort, to gain control. If anyone's ever told you, stop, breathe, just breathe, relax for a moment. And sometimes we're so consumed in what's going on around us and what's happening or what we're anticipating could happen, that we are really not in a breathing mode. We're in a mode where our emotions are controlling us and they are almost tormenting. So She's Not Breathing was the chapter that goes to a very critical time in my existence where I literally stopped breathing on the operating table at the age of 18. And then the things that followed that put me in a mental state and a spiritual state of not breathing. My respiration, that life-giving oxygen that I needed to clear my thoughts and to continue to re-energize me was not there. And so there were a series of lows and highs. I would even say depression and sometimes near suicidal tendencies because I was not breathing psychologically.
Wow. Okay, also, I cannot wait to ask you about this part in your book, the tongue, and then you say death of a relationship. Just tell us, what does that even mean?
Wow. That, I'm even feeling a little bit of something there because we think that grief is all centered around death, and we always point to death as the source of grief. But we grieve. Grief is really, in simple terms, it's a very bad feeling. And sometimes it lasts longer than other times. So this was a period of psychological anxiety, relationship. It was the death of a relationship, of a person that I had become friends with. We had no qualms with each other. We were closely knit. We could go to the same places, run in the same circles, go shopping together, sit down and share secrets with one another. And we just were knit together, just the closest type of a friend. And everybody needs someone like that. And we had that in each other. And then one day, I don't know what happened. I don't know who said something wrong, but something was said that triggered anger. And in the anger, we began to lash out at each other. And in our lashing out at each other, we began to throw things up in the other one's face, the secrets, the idiosyncrasies, the private things, the things we knew were going to hurt and cut, because it was as if the gloves were off and we were destroying each other emotionally. So It was that tongue, if I had managed it and thought before I spoke, and likewise on the other part, it would never have escalated like that. So the tongue can be as deadly as a gun or anything else. It can leave pain in you and emptiness as well.
Yes, that was good. That was really good. Well, we thank you so much for being here with us on Ask the Messengers. This is such an amazing book. When I read it, I was like, wow, I didn't know that you can grieve in so many facets other than death, because when people say grieve, that's immediately the thing that you think about. Yeah. But you can also grieve relationships. Like you said, there's so many other things that can cause grief. So I just want to thank you for clarifying that with us today, for giving this informative information that you've given to the audience. And we just want to say thank you again for being here.
When we return, Pastor Belinda Pritchett shares her life's journeys with Kimberly. Ask the Messengers will be right back.
Would you like to help us save lives? You can do so by partnering with us here at Ask the Messengers by making a donation of any amount. The people in your communities need your support. Help us extend our reach and impact more lives. Supporting our organization is as easy as a click of a button. Just visit our site shown on the screen from your phone or computer where you will see a yellow donation button. Ask the Messengers is waiting on your partnership, and your community is waiting on you.
We are back, and again, I am your host, Tina Nelson. And in case you missed it, Dr. Valerie Simpson just shared a few things that motivated her to write her book, Breathe. And now let's go back to Kimberly Mallory as she goes one-on-one with Minister Belinda Pritchett, who's the author of Fostering Pain in Silence. Take it away, Kimberly.
Okay, welcome back from the break. And Valerie, thank you so much again for being on our show.
Valerie, I know her.
You know Valerie
We grew up
Simpson?
together. Yes, we grew up together.
Wow, now isn't this a small world? I had one
Oh my God.
author on the show, and now I have another author on the show, and you all know each other.
Yes, 8 years old.
Wow, now this is such a
Friends
small
at 8
world.
years old. Yes.
And both of you all wrote a book.
My God.
Okay, well, we already interviewed Valerie. So now, Belinda, let's get into your book. And when I say, wow, wow, wow.
Thank you.
You
so
all,
much.
this is Belinda Pritchett, and the name of her book is Fostering Pain in Silence. And I mean, when I read over her book, I just want to jump right into your book, Belinda, okay? So
Yes.
this is a question I have for you. Now, I did get a little teary-eyed when I read your book, you know, because it was just so heartfelt and it was so amazing. And
Yes.
so you were removed from your mom and put into a foster care.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, well, just not me, but my brothers and sisters as well. So I came from a two-parent home. My father, back in the day, you know, the Vietnam War, he was drafted into the service. So they didn't care about him, you know what I mean, having, you know, 5 children at that particular time. And at that particular time, my mom was also diagnosed with a mental illness, all at the same time. So the service did not care. You know, at that particular time, they needed men. So I remember, this is plain as day, 1 second, it's just that she dressed us up. You know, she dressed us up with our fine clothes on, and we didn't understand, fed us breakfast. And this strange lady came and knocked on the door. And when she knocked on the door, my mother never shed a tear. The one thing she did, she gave me a Band-Aid, because my brother, older brother, had a lung disease. So basically, it was reversed. I became the oldest. And she said, Belinda, Lynn, you have to take care of your siblings. And so they put us in the car, and the next thing we knew, we heard later that my mother tried to commit suicide.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay, and as I continue to read your book, I found out that you got pregnant at the age of 16.
Yes.
And not only were you pregnant at the age of 16, but your son was born with Down syndrome.
Yes.
Now, let me ask you this question. How and what did you do to handle that at the age of 16 with the son, and he had Down syndrome? Tell the audience a little bit of how you handled that.
Well, let me tell you first. You ever heard somebody get pregnant the first time around?
Okay.
So, yes. So I didn't even know I was pregnant. Okay. So when I did have him at the age of 6 months old, I had to take him to Children's Hospital because he had a bad cold. Mm-hmm. And when I took him to the hospital, they told me that he was mongoloid. If you remember back in the day, they used the word mongoloid. So I thought it was a disease, uncurable. Now, mind you, I'm 17 now, at the hospital by myself. So I asked the doctor, is it curable? He looked at me and said, you don't know? I don't know what. Is my son getting ready to die? They say, no, ma'am, your son is mentally retarded. And I just broke down. So they pulled me into a room and they began to tell me, you know, what he was diagnosed with, what it was about and everything like that. But he was a godsend. Didn't even know it. He's a god. He's my road dog. He's 47 years old. And it was just devastating to me. And, you know, I knew that I had to take care of him. And back in the day, they used to let you take your kids to school with you. So I was able to take him to school with me. Everywhere I went, he went with me. So through my teenage years, when God seen me spiraling around, he gave me somebody so that I had to shift and recognize that I had somebody to take care of. So he was my first step in knowing that, hey, Belinda, the things that you're doing right now, you know what I mean? You have somebody else that needs you, and it's dependent on you.
Yes, and that's something because God will do for us sometimes when we can't even do for ourselves. Sometimes we don't even see the things that need to be done that God will do. But you know, Belinda, as I was reading your book, let me just go over some of these things. Okay, so you're 64.
Yes.
And you're divorced 3 times. You have 6 children and a stepson.
Yes.
But yet you let nothing hold you down. You have your master's degree in clinical social work. You are a pastor, and you've raised 7 wonderful children.
Yes.
And you haven't missed a beat. Now, just tell the audience a little bit of how you were able to overcome some of the adversities that you had growing up, foster care, having a child on syndrome, having 7 children, but then you still found time for you. Just share with the audience, how does that look?
Okay, so what had happened occurred, like I said before, you know, I had my son, you know, we call him Big Clef. So, you know, I realized then, you know what I mean, that I had to shift and my life had to change. So I got married early. I got married at the age of 21. And he was my soulmate. He was my everything, you know, but life, you know, took a hold of him. And so I had to be the sole provider at that particular time. But then I didn't have a high school diploma at that particular time. And then I began to see my friends, you know, they were graduated from school and they had nice cars. And I said, you know what? This is not my destiny. I got to go back to school. So what I did, the first thing I did, my aunt, it's called Ruthbrook, right there on the west side of Detroit. So I went to go and take my GED. And so I prayed so hard, you know what I mean? And I passed it on the first go round. So I passed and got my GED. I left no confidence. Even though I passed, I still did not believe it. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe me, low self-esteem, had passed and got my GED. So then as the months went on, I messed around and they gave me a diploma and a robe. They told me I'm getting ready to walk across the stage. Me? Getting ready to walk across the stage, using drugs, alcohol, taking pills, being promiscuous, doing everything I thought I was bad enough and good enough to do. That's what I did. A runaway. I ran away all the time. You know what I mean? Didn't stay at home in the foster care system, you know, with my baby. They was trying to take my baby away from me. So anyway, I said, you know, I'm going to try college. So I went to Wayne State University, and the classes and the papers, I began to break. I began to break in my car. I began to break as I was writing the self-reflection papers. And that was a part of my healing process.
All right.
I came out there with a 3.8. Then I said, you know what? I think I'm going to try for my bachelor's. I said, if I can get my GED, I know I can get my bachelor's. So I left Wayne Community College and I went to Madonna University. I was scared to life because I said, no, I can't do this. Madonna was a hard school, but through the tutoring, through different instructors, you know, they began to help me. And one instructor even came out to my house. How about that? And she began to tutor me, then to start telling me how to write professional papers. And I passed there with a 3.8. Then a few years later, I said, you know what? I want my master's.
Wow. So pretty much, Belinda, that's what you did.
And that's exactly what I did. I went and got my master's. Yes, I did.
So that is so amazing because you just went from what you went through in childhood. You didn't let that determine who you were going to become. And that is so amazing. I heard you mention that you were on drugs as well. So you were on, how long were you on drugs?
Oh my God, throughout my teenage years. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Because, you know, in the foster home, they told me that I was not going to amount to nothing. I wasn't going
Yes.
to be
Yes.
anything. You know, I was only going to be a baby maker. You know what I mean? Nobody wanted me. Nobody's going to love me. And I lived through that for
And
so
see,
many
that's the good
years.
thing about it. That's the good thing about it is that you overcame
Yes, I did.
all of those things that meant to kill you, that to
Yes.
meant to harm you, and you just kept pushing through. We truly appreciate you, telling us a little bit about your book and as well as telling us your story and how you overcame it. So just thank you again, and you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you so much, guys.
Stay tuned for more on Ask the Messengers. And now, some words of encouragement from today's guest.
Your first reaction to grief, your first reaction to an event would tend to be hinging more on the emotions in many cases than it is on reality. Sometimes it looks far worse than it is going to be, and then sometimes we don't know that our reactions are only going to exacerbate the situation. So I would say, take a moment and just actually give yourself some oxygen. Just take in a deep breath. It will settle your nerves. It will regulate your blood pressure. It will slow down the fast beating heart, and reality will begin to become clearer, and you can think and rationalize better.
Do not let your past dictate your future. Leave that past behind. That is not your destiny, and that's not where you're going. But look towards your future, look towards your hope, look toward your vision. Your visions and your dreams are not dead. They are just waiting on you. They're waiting on you to bring them into fruition.
Well, that concludes this week's episode of Ask the Messengers, and we hope that you enjoyed this week's author series with Kimberly Mallory. Again, we thank Dr. Valerie Simpson, author of Breathe, and Minister Belinda Pritchett, author of Fostering Pain in Silence. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And also, if you would like to support our show, please feel free to make a donation of any kind right to our website on askthemessengers.org. If you prefer mailing donations, please make check or money order payable to Ask the Messengers TV show and send them to 18400 Schaefer Highway, Detroit, Michigan 48235. I am your host, Tina Nelson, encouraging you to seek a power greater than yourself so that you too can turn your mess into a message. Continue to stay safe, and most importantly, be kind to one another. See you next time on Ask the Messengers.
You have to fail in order to climb that ladder. There's no one that doesn't fail. What is not okay is that when you fail, you stay down. Whoever stays down is a loser. And winners will fail and get up, fail and get up, fail and get up. You always get up. That is a winner. You got to be, in order to perform well in anything, if it's in boxing or if it is on your job or with your thinking, is only happening when you relax. So relax. It's okay to fail. Let's just go all out and give it everything that you got. That's what it is all about.